What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about what do Brits love the most about being British. As an American, I'm really curious, out of all the things that encompass British culture, what do Brits enjoy the most about it? So today, I want to take a look at this Reddit discussion that really caught my attention, where somebody asked, what is the thing you love the most about being British or in the UK? And a lot of Brits actually answered this question, and I want to take a look at that. Okay, I know it's a very vague question, but I just genuinely want to know. What is, for you, one of the best things or your favorite thing about the UK or about being British? Okay, let's take a look at some of the top answers. What do Brits just love about being British? What's the hype around it? I'm from Singapore and I went to the UK for studies. Okay, so this is someone who actually moved to the UK and experienced it. It's the "you alright, love?" at the shops for me. It's wow. It's that loving, comforting grandma speak. Apparently, that's much more common in the UK. It's people saying, "You all right, love?" at the shops. That's what they love most. That's great. As a person who grew up in a typical Asian family, no one called me love, and it felt snuggly whenever someone did. It felt snuggly, wholesome. That is wholesome. What the heck? That is not what I was expecting. I was expecting, I don't know, something about the food or the way you speak or something about. I didn't expect out of all of British culture. This person, not that this is a bad suggestion. I actually like this. It's the "you all right, love?" that friendliness, that comforting feeling. Oh, cute. Yeah, a lot of people like that answer. I like that too. That's actually from someone who moved to the UK. I'm sure there's some comments here from people who have lived in the UK their whole life as well. That'll be interesting to take a look at. The coastline is the thing that this Brit loves the most about being British. The coastline isn't. I mean, the UK is like an island. Like it's all coastline. What does this mean? Interesting history and old buildings. They're not going to elaborate on the coastline thing? Is it that no matter where you are in the UK, you're close to the coastline? Or when Brits reference the coastline, does that mean something specific that I don't understand? I don't know. Okay. Interesting history and old buildings. Yes. Yes. Man, that's maybe an underrated, at least to Americans, underrated perk of the UK. It has such a long history. Such a long history. There's castles and stuff. You don't see castles in the United States. Yeah, that's awesome. Old buildings. Some of the food. Yeah, yeah. This is more stuff that I was kind of expecting. Uh, and then we got the "you are right, love" for number one. That's funny. Some of the food, like a full English breakfast. I've learned about the full English breakfast. Yes, yes, agree. Music and literature, the humor. This is a great answer. This has everything. I just don't really understand the coastline, like so that you can go like swimming or enjoying the coast. The fact that there's a lot of coastline because it's like an island. I don't know, but all of this stuff makes sense to me. That's a good answer. At a quick glance, I thought you started saying the cocaine, the cocaine. No, 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 the coastline, the coastline. Well, now that you mention it, oh no. Okay, okay, let's move right along here. Another thing that Brits love the most about being British: free healthcare. Yes. Oh man, this speaks to me on a deep level as an American. Free healthcare. If you have a serious condition, sure. Even if you don't have a serious condition, that sounds wonderful. Not having to worry about all that. Health insurance and coverage, deductibles. Oh man. I am type 1 diabetic. I am so grateful we have a system in place where I can live on for free. without fear of dying or having poor control of my illness, not being able to afford it. Exactly. Oh my gosh. That would be such a weight lifted off the shoulders of so many Americans to just not have to worry about like getting health care. People like everyone's already worried about their health. And then there's this added level in America of worrying about can you afford the care? Like it's pretty insane, honestly, actually. I feel sorry for so many people around the world who do not have this luxury. I feel a sense of guilt. Oh no, I mean, we're definitely jealous, but you don't have to feel guilty. If anything, the UK's healthcare system should just be like an inspiration for what America could maybe move towards sometime, maybe? Probably not, unfortunately. For those who don't like my generic answer, the right to roam, which is a right of access and right of way, and national parks are another favorite thing. Right to roam. I think this is like the right to explore. Is there a right to roam in the UK where you can explore places like in America, people are very 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 uptight about their property and people can't not people who owns what and no trespassing and I know in other parts of the world, I didn't know in the UK there's a right to roam to like explore places. That's I didn't know that. National parks are a favorite thing. Yeah, just the UK like geographical beauty in general, right? These are great answers. There's a lot to love about being British. Holy cow. Um, how is this not higher? The NHS is the best thing about this country, and we need to view it like a sacred cow. Oh, okay. Like a sacred cow. Sure. What else do we have here? This is good so far. Good stuff. The history and the size is things that this Brit loves the most about the UK or about being British. The size, as in not very big? Because I don't know. I'm coming from an American point of view. We're just gigantic. And the thought of even visiting everywhere in the United States seems impossible. Like every state is almost like its own country, it feels like sometimes. So when they say the size is something they love about being British, is it that it's like a manageable size, I think? And the history. Yeah, the history. I love the fact that Britain has basically been around for as long as anywhere. Yes, exactly. That's like especially like coming from the American point of view. It's so fascinating to think about that there's Brits, people living in the UK in this society, that's been like this empire like for so long and had so much influence all over the world. Such an incredible history. And that the architecture reflects that. Right. All the cool stuff, the buildings. Yes. Do Brits ever get like tired of that or like not tired of it, but like, stop appreciating because you're just it's always around these pieces of history and buildings and architecture, the castles, the monuments. Does that ever get old? Like I feel like that'd just be the coolest thing. My favorite thing about London, as someone who does not live there, is that there are parts that come from every time in our history. And although it doesn't feel like a planned city, so London is comprised of like many aspects throughout British history. I'm not like buildings and stuff, maybe? Although the same isn't true for every city and town in the UK, they all have their own character from when they were first built. And truly everywhere just feels slightly different from the town next along and reflects the era it was built in. That is such a cool insight. That is a fantastic way to put that. Yes. I mean, I would say in the United States, it does feel like the states are very different and I mean, they are, and but then you travel around a little bit, and a city or a town is just another city or town. Like, maybe the people are different throughout the United States, but I wouldn't say, like, the buildings or that kind of stuff, the history is different, because it's really not. That's what I think they're emphasizing here about the UK. Literally, the town itself, maybe the style or look, the era it was built in, is literally different. That's extremely cool. That's amazing. The size is also great. Okay, they're elaborating on the size here. Even driving along the motorway, you can see and feel the difference in the landscape every 10 minutes or so, which I love. You can feel the difference in the landscape driving through the UK. Like what? It's hilly and then what? It's flat and then it's a mountain, then it's a valley. What is that what they mean? And then there's also the fact that you can find whatever you want, either as an attraction or a physical landscape, within a day trip of where you live. That's, I think, what they were getting at here. That is awesome. The size of the UK might just be perfect because it's big enough that there's a diversity of people living all in different places, but it's just small enough where it's like a day trip to go explore cool stuff. That's I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. That is when I think about the United States, like traveling to another state or attraction that I'm interested in, you look it up on Google Maps and you're like, "Oh, that'll take 16 hours to drive." Well, okay. So I have to book a hotel or something and it's just like and then you're like, "Okay, maybe I'm not gonna." And the idea that you can pretty much reach most places in the UK in a day or two, that's pretty awesome. That's like a pretty big perk. And not even to mention the accessibility to visiting the rest of Europe. That's like blows my mind. That's something Americans really don't think about. How much accessibility people in the UK have to visiting other countries in Europe. I think here in America, we just feel so disconnected and isolated from all that. I don't even think about it. We don't even think about it, to be perfectly honest. And so it's almost hard for me to wrap my brain around having that ability, that availability to travel like that to other cultures and countries. It probably explains why a lot of Americans are not very worldly and don't know much about other countries at all. Honestly, we're by Mexico and Canada, of course, and some other places are closer, but yeah, I think that explains a lot of it. That's a huge perk, huge of living in the UK. Wow. I guess what I'm getting at is I love the variety of the UK. Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. That is a great point. I grew up in South Africa. Okay, we've gotten a couple people giving their perspective living in the UK. Here's another person who moved to the UK and what they loved about sort of becoming British, experiencing the British culture, is they loved, I felt completely and utterly safe in the UK. Wow, returned home late from a day in London. A couple weeks ago, couldn't get an Uber. Walked home 40 minutes in the dark all alone. Not a single care about my personal safety. My biggest worry was stepping on snails. Are there snails? What? That's a fear I didn't even know. I didn't even know about that fear. Feeling safe. Yes, this can vary drastically so much depending on where you live in the United States can greatly affect how safe you feel. I think you're better off in some of the smaller towns and cities in the United States where you it's more of a tighter community and people kind of know each other. That's when you can start to feel like safe. Probably the feeling that most people have living in the UK. But some of the bigger cities in the United States, like you genuinely don't feel safe, and you wouldn't even consider like walking around at nighttime in certain areas. It would literally be asking like for trouble. So yeah, that's a significant difference. And then that's comparing the U.S. and U.K. compared to other countries around the world. I'm sure it can be drastically different as well, even less safe, unfortunately. What else? Let's look at a couple more here. what Brits love about being British. The pub! I'm surprised it took so long to get to this comment. The pub, right? Yeah, here and I've dedicated some effort to learning about British pubs on this channel. And they are just magical. They are unique. They are so different to anything we have here in America. I used to think pubs in the UK were like bars here in America. No, couldn't have been more wrong. It is just its own magical experience that you really can't find. We do like pubs in America, like imitating like pubs, like Irish pubs and English pubs, Scottish pubs, and it's just like no, 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 just not the same. Read this. I read this comment just after getting back from a nice stroll, a mile down the road to a lovely village pub with a beer garden, where we went for a pint of cider in the sun because the weather was nice. This would absolutely be my answer as well. That sounds so delightful. I love hearing it even described to me like that. Basking in the sun, the village pub. Yeah, this idea that you have like local pubs that are just like around where you live, even if you're in a smaller town or something. You got your local village pub where you can go hang out. It's not just necessarily for getting drunk and going out at night and partying. It's somewhere you can get food, you can relax. I think sometimes people will even bring their children or their pets there. It's just magical. Okay, what else do we have? I love the sense of humor. Our comedy shows. U.S. comedy just isn't the same. It isn't. It really isn't. And that I think that's why the phrase British comedy is so famous. Here in America, there's no term like American comedy. That's not even a phrase. But people say British comedy. Oh, that's like a British sense of humor, British comedy. So Americans really do appreciate the difference and the uniqueness, the style of British comedy. It really is unique. Thank God it exists, because some of that stuff really is amazing. And it's quite different here in America. We're not as willing to be self-deprecating. We're not as willing to acknowledge some of the I don't know, even acknowledging like the depressing parts of life and making jokes out of it. That's really some of the most important work of comedy, I think. What is this? British humor is subtle, nuanced, witty, and then American humor is loud and predictable. Yeah, it's very straightforward. Our comedies, especially nowadays, I mean, they don't even really make American comedies much because they kind of think Americans are very stupid, which might be true, and that we need very basic jokes. The jokes are so basic and like slapstick, very, I don't know, way too basic and predictable. That's a good way of putting it. Predictable, and it's not funny. Whereas British humor has a lot of fascinating aspects to it. I like that answer. That is definitely something to love about being British. That's actually an awesome, awesome aspect of British culture. These have all been quite good. Let's take a look at maybe one more here. The way British culture emphasizes life's little everyday pleasures. Ooh, a sunny afternoon, a nice cup of tea, visiting the pub with a friend, relaxing stroll in the park. Yeah, I thought these things were lost to time, lost to history, and that we were all just stuck here on the internet. But in Britain, I think it's definitely true. Americans definitely don't get out very much. And if we do, even if we go down the street, we drive our cars. But these ideas of British culture, everyday pleasures, sunny afternoon, cup of tea, yeah, we definitely don't have that. Or the pub, stroll in the park. Other nations may do these things, but I think it's a particularly British thing to get excited at the prospect of a scone or a blue sky. I love that. I love that. Appreciating the simple comforts in life. That does sound very British. I actually enjoyed all of these comments. This was a fantastic discussion. I was really interested in looking at this just because of the title. What are things, Brits love most about being British. What a question. And the answers here, I don't know, they kind of put me in a good mood in a way. Although this is just a bunch of stuff that doesn't exist here in the United States. But somehow just like listening to these kind of put me in a good mood. This is quite enjoyable. I think it's just enjoyable hearing people kind of gush and like passionately talk about something they love, which is, the parts of being British that they love. And that made it quite fun. I enjoyed this. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment, perhaps with what you love most about being British or in the UK. That'd be fascinating to hear about. That'd be great. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to the UK and UK culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.